could be giving me like 4 or maybe even 5-star energy. I just felt so meh about this book, and that really sucks. Hey, how's it going? My name is Gabby. Welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be doing a reading vlog where I'm going to be reading a few new thriller and romance releases specifically that I'm really excited about. I actually finished filming this vlog like about a day ago, and I realized that I never filmed an intro because in this vlog I was just allowing myself to mood read some new releases that I've been really looking forward to, and some books that I do get around to in this video. I did get around to reading 2 different thrillers. I read Don't Open Your Eyes by Liv Constantine, as well as Not Quite Dead Yet by Holly Jackson, which is ironic because every time I see both of these book covers, they remind me so much of each other. Don't Open Your Eyes is one that I'm excited about because Liv Constantine has written a few thrillers that I've read. This author hasn't really had a big win for me yet, so I was hoping that this one would be the book. And then Not Quite Dead Yet is a very popular thriller book at the moment because it's from the same author as A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, and I believe this one's her first adult thriller. So I was really looking forward to reading this one because of how much I enjoyed A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. And then I did get around to reading 3 different romances in this vlog. I read Well Actually, which this is one that I have an ARC copy of, but this one is going on sale in the month of August. I wanted to read this one because the premise just sounded exactly like something that I would like. This one says it's about this girl named Eva who runs this show called Sausage Talk, where she basically has like B-list celebrities come onto the show and interviews them while they're eating like a hot dog together. But for one of the episodes, the producers encourage her to bring on her ex-boyfriend onto one of these shows, so then they have like some banter. In this vlog, I also ended up reading We Met Like This by Casey West. This is the newest romance book from Casey West. This one actually goes on sale in September, and I was so excited to read this one because Casey West is actually known for writing a bunch of different young adult romance books that I've really enjoyed over the years, and this is actually her first adult rom-com, so I've been highly anticipating this one because I love the way that Casey West writes her young adult books, and so I couldn't wait to see what she was gonna do with an adult romance book. And then lastly, the last thing that I got to in this vlog was Sounds Like Love by Ashley Poston, because you know Ashley Poston is an author that I've given 5 stars to 2 times now. Then her last release from last year called Novel Love Story was one that I really didn't like, and I gave it like 2.5 stars. So I was really nervous to pick up her new release, Sounds Like Love, but I'm so excited that I finally got around to it in this video. So those are the 5 books that I'm going to be reading in today's vlog, but before we do jump into the video, I just wanted to take a second to thank today's video sponsor, which is Factor, because Factor makes meeting your nutrition goals easier than ever by delivering fresh, never frozen, dietitian approved meals right to your doorstep. Something that I really love about Factor is that these meals are ready to go in just 2 minutes. You don't have to waste so much of your day trying to meal plan, trying to go to the grocery store. You can skip the cooking fatigue and the cleanup. I know for myself, it's always such a struggle, like trying to think during the day, like what am I gonna eat for dinner tonight? And I love that Factor has a weekly menu of 35 plus options, so there's always something different. And they have options for everyone, like calorie smart, keto, vegan and veggie, and protein plus. So you can skip the overpriced takeout trap because Factor is cheaper and way more delicious. I just love that you can get these restaurant quality meals delivered right to your door, and you don't have to sacrifice on like having a nutritious meal just because you don't have the time. And when things get hectic, Factor is very flexible with your schedule. You can change your order up every week with meal plans from 4 up to 18 meals per week, and you can also pause or reschedule deliveries whenever you need to. I just love having the convenience of Factor. It really is such a time saver, and as somebody who gets really lazy some nights, especially in the summertime for some reason, like I just don't want to cook, I just love having the Factor meals ready to go. So you can head to factor75.com or click the link down below and use my code 50gabbyreads to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box from Factor. That's code 50gabbyreads at factor75.com to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box from Factor. That's an amazing deal. Thank you so much to Factor for sponsoring today's video, and now let's get into the reading vlog.
Been weaker, it's been waiting for the right day. Like the right day ever comes, now it's Friday and nothing's changed. Mistakes that everyone is making, but I can't change. I'm stuck in reverse like an old Benz. Forgot to tap it up. Now I long for another day where things fall into place.
to update you because I've been listening to the audiobook Well Actually while I've been driving down visiting my friend Brittany. I ended up staying at her place last night because we filmed this really fun video for Patreon that I'm going to be posting soon. And we had a really fun time filming. I also ended up going book shopping with her. I got a few different books. We went to Home Goods and we got a bunch of like Halloween stuff. And then we also saw Superman in theaters, and like that was so much fun. Like Superman was so good. So it was a really great weekend. But I wanted to let you know that I have been listening to the romance book Well Actually. I've been listening to this one on audio and I'm like 45% of the way through right now. I'm really loving this one so far. And what I like about it is that you're following this main character and she runs this like show called Sausage Talk. And it's basically like, I don't know if it's like a radio thing or a podcast thing. I think it's like a radio thing where she like invites these like B-list celebrities basically to like come onto the show, and they eat some like hot dogs together, and they kind of like, she gets to interview them about their, you know, careers. And so she's found a little bit of success with like doing this show, but it's not exactly like what she wants to be doing with her life, you know, like she wants to be working more in like some serious journalism, you know, but like this is like a stepping stone for her. And it's so funny because there's this guy named Riley Cooper who is this guy that she like used to date when she was in college, and she like really liked him, but they kind of had this weird messy falling out in college. Now he's like really big on social media and he's known for being like a feminist, and like he knows how to like treat women, and like he just really preaches this whole message of like how to treat a woman right. And so then she ends up posting this TikTok that goes very viral where she's like really drunk one night and she's saying like, well, I actually dated Riley Cooper and like he was like not even that good in bed, and he was like the worst that I've ever had, and he's like not a gentleman, and like she just says all these things about him. And so naturally it goes super viral, and then she's like really embarrassed that she posted that. But then her show, like the people that run the show of Sausage Talk, they're like, okay, so you're gonna have him on the show because that's gonna get us like really great numbers because everybody knows who Riley Cooper is, and they want to use the like popularity of that TikTok going viral of hers, like they want to use that for the show. And so of course he ends up coming onto the show on this Sausage Talk show, and they have this like really funny exchange with like their banter, and he gets her to agree to go on a few dates with him so that he can redeem himself and show that he's a different guy now. And I don't know, I'm really liking the setup of this so far. I feel like both of these characters are really fun, and I feel like their stories are being very well fleshed out, and I actually like that we're only getting her perspective. Like we're not actually getting any of his point of view, but we do get a few like flashback scenes so that we could see like what happened between them when they were in college and kind of like how she was feeling about him. I'm just loving the banter between these two. Like I just think they have really funny banter, and like there's been a few moments where I like laughed out loud while listening to this audiobook, which rarely ever happens for me. I think the one thing though, like the one nitpicky thing that I have with this book so far is that I think sometimes she can be a little bit of a bitch. I just think sometimes she can overreact about something that doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal, and like you can tell that he has good intentions about most of these things, and she'll overreact in a way that's like very nasty. But I also think it's okay because she is self-aware of those things. Like it's not like she's just like shitty to him and then she like doesn't acknowledge the fact that she was shitty. So it definitely could be worse, but like there's some moments where like she just reacts so strongly to him in a negative way, and I'm like, dude, like chill out. And so that's like a little bit frustrating to read at times, but I also do like that this kind of has like the grumpy sunshine trope, and she's definitely the more grumpy one and he's a little bit more sunshine, which I do prefer when it comes to the grumpy sunshine trope. Like I really do like when the girl is the more like, you know, negative, pessimistic one. I also was not expecting the queer rep in this book with both of these characters, so like that's also amazing, and I'm just having a really good time with it so far. And it's surprising me a lot so far, not because like I've been in a reading slump or anything, but like the last few audiobooks that I've tried to listen to, I just have not been able to like get into them, and I keep DNFing all these audiobooks at like 10% or 20% in. They're just not holding my attention, and so the fact that I was able to listen to 45% of this and I am so invested and like so hooked into the romance, like I feel like that's a great sign. And you know, so far it's feeling like this one could be giving me like 4 or maybe even 5-star energy. We'll just have to see where the rest of it goes. And yesterday while I was listening to it, I was like, well, what characters am I imagining in my head as I'm listening to this? And I couldn't quite figure it out. But then after I saw the Superman movie, I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna be picturing David Cornsweet for like this guy, Riley Cooper. Like, I have to. Like, have you seen the new Superman? Like, he is so beautiful. And I've definitely seen him in a few movies before, but like this movie, just like, whoa. Like, he is so stunning. And so I'm gonna be picturing him for like every romance book that I read for the near future. That's just the way it works, you know? I don't make the rules. Hey, hello. So many hours have passed since I last updated you. I got home earlier today and then I ended up taking a walk, and it was really warm outside today. It was about like 80 degrees. I mean, it wasn't terrible, but it was hot enough that like I came home sweating, and then I was like, oh my God, I need a shower. So I had to like wash my hair immediately. And then I've just been doing some stuff on my laptop, and I was able to finish listening to the audiobook for Well Actually. And I really wish that I was gonna come on here and like give you a glowing 5-star review, but I think I'm probably gonna land somewhere around like 3.5 stars for this book. Oh God, I was loving it so much at the beginning that I was so sure that this one had the potential to like be a new favorite of mine, but I think I just had too many issues with some of the things happening in the second half for me to like fully give this book a high rating. I mean, one of the main things is that while I was listening to this book on audio, when I was around like the 70% mark of the book, I kept looking down at the audiobook being like, this feels like the story is like wrapping up right now. Like, what do you mean there's still 30% of the book left? I don't know, maybe it was just me, but like at that part of the book, the way that the writing was happening around 70%, it felt like the story should be over, or like that was the conclusion of the book. And so it definitely felt like it was just a little bit too long. I mean, this book is about like 360 pages, so like it is a little bit on the lengthy side. I don't think it needed to be quite as long as it was. And then also another little like nitpicky thing for me with this one is that I didn't love the way the sex scenes were written in this book. I feel like I can be very particular when it comes to like the certain kinds of smutty scenes that I enjoy reading, but something that bothers me so much is when I feel like the characters, like their personalities kind of just like disappear during a smut scene, and it just becomes so like over the top in a way that feels really like ridiculous and cringy to me. And I couldn't help but feel that way about some of the smutty scenes in this one. And then this one also kind of falls into that thing where like once they start having sex, it's just a lot of sex scenes in the second half of this book, and I didn't need like all of that. And I also think another reason why I don't want to give this one as high of a rating is because this girl would just drive me nuts sometimes. I mean, don't get me wrong, I really did like their dynamic. I liked that she was a little bit more grumpy and that he was a little bit more sunshine. But like this guy, oh my God, there would be so many times where I was like wanting her to like comfort him, or for her to like just take a fucking minute to like try to understand where he's coming from or what he's saying. And I feel like she's just very easy to judge with him and like very short with him in situations that was just, it was frustrating for me to read sometimes. And I get that that's just her character and that's just the way she is, but like she did irritate me a little bit sometimes with the way that she communicated with him and the way that she handled certain conflicts. I just didn't love that. This is definitely one of those romance books where like I preferred the male love interest a lot more than this lead female girl, which sucks, you know, because the book is told entirely from her perspective. So like I like that we do at least have the chance to like be in her head a lot, and we get to see like why she reacts the way she does. And like I do feel some sympathy towards her in some situations, but I still did not approve of the way that she was treating him at times. But overall, I do have mostly positive feelings about this book because I really did like the romance. I think this author is very good at writing the banter between these two. And I loved the idea of them, you know, going on these dates and then coming back onto her radio show to like talk about how the dates went and like what's going on with them. I think the concept for this is really fun. And I'm really glad that I finally got around to reading this one because I don't think I've actually read any books from this author. I think the only one that I've tried is the book Late Bloomer, and that was one that I ended up DNFing. I think it was last year or the year before. I'm glad that I do have a book from this author that works for me because I know this author does have a pretty extensive backlist. So if you have read anything from this author, let me know what you think of their other books and if you think there's anything else from this author that I would like. Yeah, this one's actually publishing in the month of August. I think this one should be published by the time that this vlog goes live.
We've said our goodbyes, but we won't go home just yet. You've got your head down, just like when we first met.
Okay, hello. It is now the next afternoon. It's about 3:30 in the afternoon, and I've had such a busy 24 hours. I mean, yesterday, as you saw last night, I went to Taco Time, which is like a local fast food place, and I tried something different. I got one of their chicken Caesar soft taco like wrap things, and it was so good. I'm really glad that I branched out and tried something different because I'm definitely the kind of person that like when I go out to eat, 90% of the time I'm gonna order something that I know that I love, and then 10% of the time I'll like branch out and try something new. And I'm glad that I did that last night because that turned out so good and I'm definitely gonna order it again. It was like way bigger than I thought it was gonna be. And then last night I also finished catching up on The Summer I Turned Pretty. I recently started watching the show with my mom just in the last 2 weeks. I've never seen it before and I'm fully caught up on season 3 now, or at least I'm caught up on the 3 episodes that have currently aired. And I'm really liking The Summer I Turned Pretty, like a lot more than I thought I was going to. Apparently I'm just trash for like a really good love triangle, and I have been Team Conrad since like very early season 1, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. And this show's just been giving me a lot of feelings. I feel like season 2 is even stronger than season 1, but I loved season 1 too. It was also messy. That was a great time, but then today has also been a busy day. This morning I got breakfast with my dad. I had to take my car in to go and get looked at. I also had to hit up the grocery store because I was missing a few different necessities, but I've also been listening to this one on audio, Don't Open Your Eyes by Liv Constantine. But this book is one that I've been excited to read. I got 114 pages into it already, and I was able to get the audiobook from my library. This is one that I was excited but also a little bit nervous to read because I have read a few thrillers from Liv Constantine and I haven't had any that I've like really loved. I think her best book that I've read so far is The Last Mrs. Parrish, but even that one, like, I don't think I gave it the highest rating. This story has been pretty interesting so far because we're following this woman named Annabelle, and she has this husband and she has 2 daughters, but what's happening with her is kind of strange because she keeps having these dreams where like she's imagining something happening and then like a day or 2 later it'll actually happen in her life, and she starts to tell her husband like she's scared of like what she's dreaming. Like sometimes she'll have these dreams that like her daughters are in danger or that he's gonna die, like her husband's gonna die, and then she keeps doing all of these things trying to prevent these things from happening, and then he just thinks that she's going crazy. So I think that's a really fun element of this book so far because I really do love like dreams being used in thrillers in this way. Then we don't just get Annabelle's perspective, we also get her perspective in the past, like when she was a younger girl, and then we also do get her daughter Scarlett's point of view, and Scarlett's point of view is like absolutely stressing me out, dude. Because in Scarlett's point of view, she's like a young girl. I don't know if they said exactly how old she is, but I'm guessing she's around like 13-ish. And she's been like messaging this guy online who's also claiming to be like 13-ish to like 16-ish. She said she met him on like a Taylor Swift Discord server, and they've been exchanging a lot of texts, and he keeps asking her a lot of different personal questions like, oh, which high school do you go to? And like, so I guess she is in high school. Yeah, so she's probably like 16. But anyway, he keeps asking her all of these like more and more personal questions, and she's like, oh my god, like I'm just so glad that I have somebody to like open up to. And I'm like, oh my god, like really for real, dude, you cannot trust this random stranger on the internet. And so her perspective has been a little like to read because I'm just stressed out for her, and I'm like, oh my god, if her parents find out like what she's doing, like it's gonna be explosive, you know? I am having fun with it so far. Like I don't think this is gonna be like a new favorite thriller, but it's definitely engaging enough. I really like that the chapters are so short, so I am just flying through this one on audio. I do also like that we're jumping around with the different perspectives and the different timelines. It's definitely keeping the pace moving, which I appreciate. And this book is only about like 330 pages, so I don't even have that much of it left. I'm actually gonna be doing some reading sprints tonight on my Patreon starting in about 30 minutes, so I'm sure I'll be able to finish the rest of this one tonight while I'm on sprints. But I do like, you know, Liv Constantine's writing. I feel like her writing, especially in this book, it reminds me a lot of like Robin Harding for some reason. I just have the same feeling with this one that I usually have when I'm reading like a Robin Harding book. And Robin Harding is one of those authors that like, I feel like every single one of her thrillers for the most part, I've given like 3-ish stars, but I always have such a fun time reading them, and I always want to gravitate towards her new releases anyway. So that's a good sign. I'm having fun with this so far. I will update you with more thoughts once I finish it though. It has been a few hours, but I wanted to update you because I just finished reading Don't Open Your Eyes, and wow, I'm actually really surprised by the things that happen in the second half of this book. Earlier today, I was getting a little bit nervous because as I was like reaching the 200-ish page mark, I was starting to feel bored, and I feel like the story was getting very repetitive with like, you know, this main character, like she keeps having these dreams and she's like able to predict things or see things that are gonna happen, and then she like does her best to try to prevent them from happening, and she's trying to keep her family safe. And those scenes were just starting to get a little bit repetitive for me. I was like, okay, like I'm ready for things to pick up. I'm ready for the twist to start coming into play. I also really did like the storyline with the younger daughter. You know, like the younger daughter is like messaging this like guy that she thinks is like her age and that she thinks she's gonna like be with him. And it's like a very scary, you know, like situation because she's such a young girl. And so I really was invested in those chapters. And then I forgot to tell you that not only do we get like the main girl Annabelle and then her daughter's perspective, but we also get this like anonymous kind of third perspective that's from the wife. And you kind of like don't know who that character is or what that perspective actually is until the very end, but those chapters are so short. Like they're usually only like a page long or like a paragraph long. But the twist at the end of this book like actually did surprise me. Like it's not what I was expecting. You know, I was actually getting really nervous leading up to the very end because as we were getting closer to the end, I was like, oh my god, no, like please don't let that be the twist, because I was thinking it was gonna be the most obvious thing of all time, and I was like, if that's the twist, like I'm gonna be so pissed and like so annoyed. And I was like ready to like give this book 2 stars if it was about to do that. But then this author just like pulled the rug out from under me and it was like, no. And thank god I was not able to easily predict the twist, and I was actually really surprised by what ended up happening. There were just a few things that really took me off guard at the end of this book, and so I really loved that. But I also think this book did have like a really big missed opportunity with this whole like dreams thing, because I feel like the whole dreams thing and like the way that she's able to like dream about things and predict things that are happening to her, like that storyline never really went anywhere interesting. And I feel like that sucks, because I feel like that was one of the most interesting things about the premise of this book, was the fact that she could like see things in her dreams, but that really didn't end up going anywhere. So like that is a little bit of a bummer. The actual like plot and the other things that were happening in this book were things that I personally did not see coming. So I really had a fun time with this actually, and I feel like this was one of those thrillers that like it got better and better as I was reading it. So that's always a good sign, because that doesn't always happen. I think I'm probably gonna give this one 4 stars. Like I don't think it was like the perfect 5-star thriller for me, but this one is definitely more memorable compared to some of the other thrillers that I've been reading recently. I mostly had positive feelings about this one. Like I think this is a really fun, quick popcorn thriller. Like it's something that you can get through very quickly. The chapters are very short and the writing itself is so engaging that it just like draws you in right away, which is something that I really love about thrillers. Like I love that feeling when you just get immersed in the story so quickly and then before you know it, like 100 pages have flown by. That's like one of my favorite reading experiences, and it's something that I usually only experience when I'm reading a thriller. And I'm so happy because since I'm giving this one 4 stars, I think this is actually the highest rated book that I've had from this author so far. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up my Patreon reading sprints. I'm currently doing the final sprint right now for the night, and then I'm probably gonna watch Big Brother with my mom, and then I'll probably get started on the next thing that I'm gonna read tomorrow.
Fill my head with roses. I can't help but dream away, standing on a field with you and flowers everywhere.
Okay, hello. It is the next afternoon and I wanted to update you because I have started reading We Met Like This by Casey West. I decided to come out to the park today because today's supposed to be like 82 degrees and it just really feels like the perfect summer day to get outside. I also brought a can of Monster with me and I've been sipping on this. But like right when I got here, I was like, oh my god, because there was a huge like child's birthday party that was happening right like across from me over here. And there was like maybe 30 people in this park and I was like, what is going on? It's a Tuesday, like why are there so many people here? But I guess that's just summertime, you know, like people just have a giant party in the park on a Tuesday. Anyway, I wanted to update you because I've been reading We Met Like This and I am now 162 pages into this. I actually started reading this last night before bed and I got like 80 pages in before bed last night and I'm almost like halfway through the book. This one is about 350 pages and you know it's good when I am reading it with only my eyeballs. Like I don't have the audiobook for this one because this one is actually an ARC copy and this one goes on sale in September. But I'm actually really liking this one a lot so far because she's actually written a ton of young adult romances that I really enjoyed, and this is her first ever adult rom-com debuts. I feel like I've been seeing that so much lately, like Emily Henry made that like a popular thing to do, and I'm so glad to see it because I've always loved Casey West and like the way that she writes and her characters, but I always wanted an adult romance book from her, so I'm glad that this one is going well so far. I love that in this story we're following this character named Margot, and she is actually an assistant to a literary agent, so she works in book publishing, which I also think is like a really fun job. I love reading about anything in like the book world like that, and I love that with her job, you know, like it involves a lot of like reading of manuscripts and like trying to figure out scheduling with authors and like things like that. Like I just love seeing the behind the scenes of that. And this story starts with a prologue where she meets this guy named Oliver and they have this like really terrible first date where like they don't feel like they have a lot in common, but then it ends with them like making out in the back of his car together. And then the story flashes forward 3 years later later when she's still struggling to find anybody, and she has this obsession with the idea of like a meet cute. Like she really wants to meet somebody in a cute way because, you know, her sister and her best friend and her roommate, like they all have these really cute stories of like how they met the guys that they're with. And so she desperately wants that for herself, but instead she spends most of her time on like all of these dating apps, and she's like meeting all of these like sleazy, lame guys on the dating apps. And Oliver is one of the guys that she had met on the dating app. And it's funny because even all these years later, they keep matching with each other on the dating apps. So they kind of like have been in touch, like they still talk every now and then. And now 3 years later, he's kind of like wanting another shot with her because they do realize that like their date together, their first date 3 years ago, was like not a good time for either of them. So he's kind of like wanting another shot with her because he was saying he was going through a really weird time in his life 3 years ago. And it's so cute. Like I just really like their banter. Like there's so many parts that I've already underlined because I'm like, that's hilarious. I also love that this one is taking place in California, which I think is kind of unique considering that, you know, she works in book publishing, and she talks a lot about how like there's a lot less opportunity to work in book publishing in California compared to like somewhere like New York. So I like that that's kind of unique with this book. This book is really reminding me a lot of Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating by Christina Lauren, because I feel like it's kind of got the similar thing where like Josh and Hazel are both wanting to like date other people, but then they just keep going home with each other. And I feel like that's kind of a similar thing happening in this one where like they keep talking about like all these people they're meeting on the apps and like nothing's working out, and like they're so clearly like so good for each other and they can't see it yet. I'm really liking the slow burn of it all. I mean, gosh, the fact that I'm like 160 pages in and it's really like a slow burn between these two, I'm just loving that. I also do think in some ways, I think this main character, Margot, she definitely reminds me a little bit of the main character from Book Lovers by Emily Henry. And I don't know if that's just because she's kind of like a literary agent or like kind of involved in that world, but she also is a little bit like cold, I guess you could say, or like people would find her to be a little bit cold or like a little bit off-putting. I just find her to be a little bit similar to that character in a way that I'm really connecting with her. I also like that this character, Margot, she does have a sister named Audrey, and like her sister is just like really successful and she's a little bit older than her. And so she's constantly like comparing herself to her in terms of like where she's at in her career and like where she's at in her relationships. So there is a lot that I'm enjoying about this one so far. I can't wait to see where the rest of the story goes. I mean, at this point, I'm loving this book a lot. Like I'm feeling like it could be like a 4-star for me, maybe even a 5-star. Like, I don't know. I am really liking the characters so far and I'm liking the writing. I guess I just can't wait to see what these characters are actually going to be like once the romantic things actually start happening between them. And like, I'm not sure if this book is going to be like really steamy or if like that's how it's going to be, because this is like the first adult romance from this author. I'm really not sure what to expect, but I'm excited to read the rest of it, and I don't really have any crazy plans this afternoon. It's only 12:30 in the afternoon right now, so I'm probably going to try to sit here and finish up the rest of it. I do have dinner plans with my sister later tonight. I'm just going to go over to the apartment and make her some dinner. Now that the party has cleared out, there's nobody here.
I wish I was there with you, reading in the park. I'm sure it'll go amazing. I can't wait.
Beneath the floorboards, secret encoders made only for us.
Okay, hello. It is a few hours later now. It's just after 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but I wanted to update you because I just finished reading We Met Like This, and I had a really great time reading this book today. I don't think it was the perfect 5-star book for me for a few different reasons, but I do think I'm probably going to end up giving this one around 4 stars. I think the only thing that's holding me back from wanting to give this book 5 stars is that there were a few things plot-wise in the second half of this book that just felt very convenient or kind of random. Like I was like, why would that character do that? Like it didn't fully click in my brain and make sense. I also think at times there were some decisions that this main character Margot is making that I found to be like a little bit frustrating. I feel like she wasn't the best at communicating her feelings with him. I also think I didn't get the like 5-star feeling when I was reading this book, because especially when I read romance, I know when a book is 5 stars because I'm like squealing and I'm giddy and I'm kicking my feet over them. And like I didn't exactly have that feeling with this book, but I did really enjoy this a lot more than I thought I was going to. I actually loved how much of her job we get to see in this book. And I could see that some people might say that this book is actually really boring because of that, because I think the focus in this book is just as much about her career working in the book publishing world as it is about the romance that develops between her and Oliver. And maybe some people would find that boring, but for me, I was so invested in like her career during this book. I loved all the talk about like the behind the scenes of the book publishing world and like working with authors one-on-one and like kind of what her day-to-day looks like doing that. Even though I do think Margot could be a slightly frustrating character to follow at times, for the most part I really did connect with her as a character, but I especially loved this guy Oliver. I just thought he was so sweet and so sincere, and I really did love like their connection and their chemistry. Their text messages back and forth to each other had me smiling so many times, like they were just so funny. And I really did love the California atmosphere in this book, you know, because if you didn't know, I'm from California originally. I lived in California for the first 20 years of my life, so it always feels really comforting to like read books that take place in California, especially Southern California. I don't know, this just felt like the perfect summer romance book for me, and that's why I think it's a little bit of a bummer that this book doesn't come out until September, because there's something about this that kind of feels like a summer romance to me, so I almost wish that this one would have published a little earlier in the year. But I'm so glad that I read this one and that I ended up enjoying it a lot. Anyway, I am getting ready to go over to my sister's apartment because I'm going to be making dinner for both of us tonight. I'm going to be making like a spaghetti carbonara type of dinner. It's going to be so good.
I let my guard down. I was the wall, you 1989.
Really dreading this update today because the reading has not been going well for me today. Because earlier today I tried to read Our Last Resort and I got about like 50 pages into this one before I decided to DNF this book because I just do not care. This is one that I was really excited to read because it's from the same author as The Quiet Tenant, and I loved, like, oh my god, this cover. I was like, this is giving like summer thriller vibes. I was a little bit nervous though to read this one because on the back premise it talks about how 15 years ago this girl and her brother escaped a cult, and like usually in thrillers I don't always love to read about cults, but I wanted to give this one a chance anyway because of how much I liked this author's previous work. Damn, the first 50 pages were so boring. It was not gripping me at all, and I saw on Goodreads that this one actually has really low ratings so far, so I was like, you know what, I don't think this is the one for me, so I decided to DNF it. And then I decided to pick up Not Quite Dead Yet by Holly Jackson, and I did end up downloading the audiobook for this one only because I started reading this afternoon when I was walking to the library, and now it's almost 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I've been listening to this one on audio almost all day, and I'm now 185 pages into this one. And I also have the strongest urge, like I want to DNF this book. And it's such a bummer because this book is so hyped right now. It's so popular. And this one actually has a really high average rating on Goodreads right now. I think it has like a 4.2 out of 5. And I know that's mainly probably because Holly Jackson is like a really loved and well-known author. I think so far she's only written young adult, and this one is her first adult novel. So there's a lot of buzz around this book right now, you know, and it's the Good Morning America pick for this month. But after being about 50% of the way through it, I really do not think that this is the thriller for me for like a few different reasons. I mean, the first thing is that even though this book is technically an adult book because this character Jet that we're following, she's 27 years old, but like, oh my god, she literally reads like a bratty 16-year-old teenager. I don't know what it is about reading from Jet's perspective, but I find her to be so annoying, and reading from her perspective has been so obnoxious. The second reason why I don't think this is the thriller for me is because the premise of this book in general just kind of freaks me out. Like, I'm a little bit of a squeamish person. I'm a little bit of a hypochondriac, and in this story, we follow this character Jet, and like on the night of Halloween, she gets attacked and she gets hit in the head so hard that she barely survived this accident of like head trauma. And then when she goes to the hospital, they basically explain to her that like she's gonna need this surgery on her brain, but the surgery is so invasive and so scary that she might actually die on the operating table if they don't do it right, and there's like a slim chance that they could do it right. But then if she doesn't get the surgery, she's gonna die in 7 days anyway because there's this aneurysm that's ready to go off at any moment. And like for me, I get a little bit squeamish when it comes to like medical stuff like this because there's a lot of scenes, especially at the start of this book, where the doctors are like explaining to her what's going on in her brain with all the blood vessels and the I don't know, it's too much for me, like too much description. I don't want to know. But then also, like, as we get further into the book, she's having some difficulties with things and she keeps having to go to the doctor, and they keep explaining to her like what's going on in her head, and it's just I keep like skipping those parts in the audiobook because I'm like, I don't need to know all of the gory details of that. I really don't like the medical stuff like that in my thrillers, and this one's very heavy with it. I mean, obviously for obvious reasons. But I think a big thing of tension in this book is that Jet does not want to get this surgery. She'd rather live the last 7 days of her life solving her own murder. And like her family is like really upset with her, especially her mom. Her mom is just so pissed that she's not going to get this surgery. She's like, how could you do this to me? Like, I'm not ready to lose another child, kind of a thing. But it's like the surgery is so dangerous that she would probably lose her anyway. And like her situation is like really awful and like really impossible. So the reason why this book is a thriller and a mystery is because you're trying to figure out like what actually happened to her on the night of Halloween, who attacked her, what was their motive, and like you get to see Jet as she's trying to solve her own murder over the 7 days that she has left to live. But at this point, over 50% of the way through the book, I just have zero interest in Jet as a character, and I really don't care to find out like what actually happened to her and who actually tried to murder her. Like, I literally don't care at this point. I also think part of the reason why I'm struggling with this one is because the audiobook, in my opinion, the audiobook is so annoying. The way that this narrator is choosing to narrate Jet, like the character, is annoying in itself, but the way that she does the voice of her mother and then like any dude that's in this book, like, oh my god, it's like grating on my ears, so annoying. So I pushed through as far as I could because I wanted to at least reach the halfway point before I knew if I wanted to DNF this one or not, but I just really don't like this. I really don't see the hype with this one. It is a bummer because I know that Holly Jackson is capable of writing something really great because I loved A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, but this one in particular, like, I just don't understand. I don't get it. I also saw some people who were rating this book high on Goodreads saying that like you really have to suspend your disbelief about the end, and so that does not motivate me to want to finish this book. Like, I literally don't care. So to prevent myself from giving this one a low rating, like this would probably be like a 1 or 2 star book for me at this point, I'm just gonna DNF it at the halfway point. You can let me know in the comments if you think this book is worth finishing or not, but like I really don't think this is the book for me. God, it feels like such a waste of a day when I end up DNFing 2 thrillers that I've been looking forward to so much. But thrillers have really just been letting me down this year. Like, I don't know what's going on. I think it is a combination of like thrillers just aren't as great as they used to be, but it's also probably because I've become a little bit more picky with my thrillers since it is a genre that I read so often. Anyway, it is just barely after 4 o'clock in the afternoon, but I'm so hungry already, so I'm probably gonna start dinner now. And I might start listening to the audiobook for the new Ashley Poston Sounds Like Love because I just got this audiobook checked out for my library, but I'm also like nervous to read this one because I wasn't the biggest fan of A Novel Love Story by Ashley Poston, which was like her most recent one that came out last year, I think. But I have given Ashley Poston 5 stars so many times that I really want to read her new release and give it a shot, and I hope that this is one that I end up loving.
In my mind we're playing hide and seek, guiding me while the waves silence speak. You're gone but still you're with me. You will always be my love, always be my love, my love, my love.
Hello, hi, I am here to update you because it has been several days since the last time that I updated this vlog because I've been listening to Sounds Like Love for Ashley Poston for like the last 3 days almost. I don't know what it was about this book, but like I just really struggled to get into this one, and I've already finished the book, so I didn't even check in at the halfway point because I wasn't even sure what I wanted to say about it. I'm really bummed about this because Ashley Poston is an author that I started off loving because I loved The Dead Romantics and then The 7-Year Slip are both books that I gave 5 stars to. But then ever since A Novel Love Story, that one was about 2.5 stars for me, and then this one, Sounds Like Love, I'm probably gonna end up giving around like a 2.5 to like 3 stars. I just felt so meh about this book, and that really sucks. I mean, the reasons why I thought that I would love this one is because we're following this girl who is a songwriter, you know, and like that's her whole career is that she writes these songs. She's not actually a singer herself, but she does write the music, which is something that I usually really love reading about because I am a songwriter myself. Like, I've been writing songs since I was in high school, and so I love, you know, hearing more about like the songwriting process and like working in that kind of industry. Like, I tend to love books like that, but the story in this book is like a little bit more sad and kind of serious than you might expect because this book is about this character going back to her hometown in North Carolina, and her parents own this little venue called The Revelry that they're gonna end up having to close, and her mom is struggling with dementia, and so there's some talk about that in this book that's really sad and really hard to read about. And then the romance in this book was pretty unique because the romance is that she starts to hear these like melodies in her head, and then she realizes she's starting to hear the voice of this guy in her head. The idea of this sounds like it could be kind of fun, but to be honest, I found it to be a little bit like cringy cringy and cliche at times. I don't know, it reminded me a lot of like fantasy books that I've read where like the characters can like read each other's minds and like that kind of a thing, but it just didn't really work for me in this story. Like I just found it to be so cringy at times and I couldn't get on board with it. I also don't know why, but I never felt fully connected to Jodie as a character, and even in the parts where it seemed like it was supposed to make me feel emotional, I just didn't really get that. I mean, don't get me wrong, there was a scene with her mom like towards the end of the book that like almost made me a little bit misty-eyed, but I just didn't emotionally connect with this story in the way that I was wanting. And in fact, it actually reminded me of a lot of different books that I have read. I mean, you might know that I've recently just read Deep Cuts and like I'm absolutely obsessed with this. I gave it 4.5 stars, and this is also a book that's about songwriters and like the music scene, so I would recommend reading this one over Sounds Like Love, even though this one's not exactly a romance. Like it is, but it isn't. It's more of like a literary coming of age kind of story, but I think this one is just so much better. It also kind of reminded me of this other romance book that I read called The Lodge, just because the love interest in this book reminded me a bit of the love interest in that book. And then this one also reminded me of that like Christmas rom-com movie that I just watched called, is it called The Married Gentleman or whatever? The one with Chad Michael Murray. Like, oh my god, I couldn't stand that movie. Like, I actually hated it. But it reminded me a lot of that in the way that, like, she's trying to save her family's little venue. Like, it definitely had that kind of a vibe to the story, so it did remind me of that movie. You know what was so crazy, too, is that the audiobook actually had, like, real singing on it at times. Right in the beginning, she, like, sings the opening part of it, and then throughout the book, as they're, like, writing some of the songs together, she'll, like, actually sing the melody out loud of like what she wants the song to sound like, which I think is kind of cool, but it's also a little bit cringy, I'm not gonna lie. Like the singing, I think it's because it's like a cappella singing. It was just a little bit awkward for me at times and I didn't know how I felt about it. I mean, you know, the book is like not interesting me that much when like yesterday, instead of like finishing the audiobook before I went to bed, which usually I would do, I was like 92% of the way through this audiobook last night and I was like, I'll finish it tomorrow. Like I only had like 40 minutes left. And like, you don't understand, like I never do that. Like usually if I'm like, I only have less than an hour left of the audiobook, I'll be like, well, I'm finishing it today. And I just didn't care enough to finish it that night. You know, and I feel like that says a lot right there about how disinterested I was in what I was reading. That freaking sucks. It turns out Ashley Poston is 2 for 4 for me so far. She still has 2 books that I've given 5 stars, but like now the fact that I didn't like Sounds Like Love either, like this freaking sucks. But anyway, that is going to be a wrap on this reading vlog. I feel really happy with this reading vlog because I was able to get around to so many books that I've been really excited about, like thriller and romance books. Even though I did have some books that I didn't really care for in this video, I'm still so glad that I finally read them all, gave them a shot. You'll have to let me know if you've read any of these books, what are your thoughts, or if you're planning to read any of them soon, you can let me know that as well. And thank you so much for watching as always, and I will see you next time with a new video. Bye!